6 p.m. I apologize for the late start. Roll call, please.
Dick Anderson.
Here.
Gordon Eggleton. Here. Gary Ellingson. Here. Chester Norikis.
Here.
Roger Sprague.
Here.
Henry Quant.
Here.
And Alex Ward.
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. For the United States. Under God, with liberty and Good evening, all. Thank you. Nice to see people in attendance and those we can't see that are watching on cable. And again, tonight we're streaming live off your computer. So the audience should be vast and building. So thank you. First order of business is the consent agenda.
Mary Anderson, would you add to the consent agenda request to read ordinances first by title only?
Will do. That'll be item number 2. Yep. So the consent agenda, and if I might remind folks, consent agenda, the purpose of the consent agenda from, have I jumped ahead? Comments. I'm going to back up, stop right here, and go back to comments. We will add the agenda item under consent, but let's go to comments from citizens. So I get out my script. The purpose of the comments from citizens is to allow citizens to present information or raise an issue regarding items not on the agenda or regarding agenda items that do not include a public hearing. A time limit of 5 minutes per citizen shall apply. I've asked the city recorder to utilize the light system so that the speaker will be informed as to their remaining time and so that we have consistency. As a general rule, this is not a time for an exchange of questions. However, at the conclusion of this agenda item, a councilor can discuss or raise questions regarding something presented by a citizen. I had no one actually sign, but that doesn't preclude from someone coming forth if they have comments tonight. This would be the time. I'm disappointed. That's a first. Oh, thank you. Thank you for saving us.
I just happen to think I should maybe make a comment about this. Debbie Williams, 2625 Southwest Dune here in Lincoln City, just at the VCC meeting. And when we were going through the criteria for the $100,000 grant fund for profits, we came onto an item as far as insurance, which is $2,000 per incident for $2 million per occurrence. No, $2 million per incident, $4 million per aggregate for any permit for a special event, which would basically take out anybody's ability, unless they're very large, of holding a special event in the city. I guess the costs are somewhere around $2,100 to $2,200 for that type of an insurance policy for an event, if you want to put on an event with the city. Actually, I guess just getting a permit for an event, which is quite large. And when we questioned Sandy about that, she said, well, it's going to take a change in ordinance to, because right now the ordinance states that the insurance is to be approved or suggested by the city insurer, and that's what they have suggested. So I just want to put that out there, not a change in ordinance at the moment, but just as a comment that if we want events in the city, we might want to take a look at how we're asking them to pay for that or something. Okay, that was it.
Any questions of Roger Sprague?
I have one. Are you talking about special event coverage, or is this something for an organization that's already insured and is just putting on an event?
From what I understand, the permit requires it from even someone that is already insured. You need to insure the city. So she was saying one of the things that we were talking about was the car show for Bama that is coming up, and that they may not be able to get a permit because it will take between $2,100 and $2,200 for them to buy a permit for that event.
That would be a special event coverage then, yes.
Yes, special event coverage.
And those are expensive.
Very. So,
But again, and not to debate it, because what I would assume is the VCC will have a whole list of criteria on qualifying, and
Yeah.
that might be part of it. And I'm assuming there's insurance requirements for nonprofits to do similar.
yes.
So we might look at, I would encourage you to look at all the,
And we are,
Yeah.
but we asked, well, okay, is that really necessary? Since, that hasn't been something that they required in the past. And because both the Sandcastle event and that car show they're kind of in the middle of time frames before these funds can really be applied for, because we don't have the criteria put together yet. They may fall through the cracks and just may not be able to have their events. So I just thought I'd bring that to the attention.
thank you very much. Other comments? All right, hearing none, now we can go to that famous consent agenda. And consent agenda, these items are considered routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any counselor may request that an item be removed for separate discussion and action. The consent agenda consists of, number one, minutes of the meeting June 25th, 2012, and number two, request to read ordinances first by title only. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Seconded.
We have a motion to approve with a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Special order of business and presentations. Proclamation Pathfinder Days, July 20th, 21st, 2012. A proclamation. In your packets, you would have seen and do see a proclamation that's proposed. I've been asked to participate on behalf of the City of Lincoln City in Pathfinder Days, and this is actually on July 20th, where you may have read some of the press regarding the vintage cars, and actually it was 100 years ago that automobile came from Newport to Siletz Bay, and we're commemorating it. So I would field any questions, but really looking for council to approve this proclamation, of which I would then read on July 20th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to approve this proclamation, Pathfinder Days, July 20th, 21st. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with a nay. Hearing none. Thank you. There's been a lot of publicity on that, and there'll be more forthcoming July 20th, about 11:30, Roadhouse 101. Vintage cars and talkie talk. Next item, we have Affordable Housing Fund, Land Trust Loan, Northeast 28th Street House.
Mayor, first off, and Allison's going to do the presentation and make the request, but unfortunately, I made an error in not getting a staff memo from Ron Tierney into the packet, and it's been delivered to you in paper. If you take maybe just a minute and read that over, and then Allison will run you and the public through the whole thing.
use us a minute, Allison, why we do this.
Okay.
Allison, if you would walk us through this, that'd
Sure.
be appreciated.
Good evening. So just to remind the viewing audience, the Lincoln Community Land Trust mission is to provide permanently affordable home ownership opportunities for working individuals and families within Lincoln County. Following Lincoln City's lead, just to give you an update on the other cities in the county, Newport has set up a $175,000 revolving loan fund. Toledo has about $47,000 in a similar program, and they're going to add to that fund as they get other loans repaid. The Land Trust has written the county commissioners to consider adopting a revolving loan construction program, loan program similar to ours, which would be for the county. And Waldport is discussing a land donation, and Yachats is trying to partner with a local developer. So really everyone is has either gotten the ball rolling already or is working hard to do so. We also have appraisals underway for a 7-lot possible donation, which will be different lots spread throughout the county. 2 of them are in Lincoln City, so we're hoping that that all goes well, and if so, we might have an additional 2 lots in town. The Land Trust's first home was purchased, renovated, and sold in Lincoln City in 2010, and this was made possible by combining 3 different funding sources. One was from the Federal Neighborhood Stabilization Program, and that is a program to buy homes in foreclosure. This property was in foreclosure and was purchased. Also a loan from the city of $75,000, which you might recall loaning and then getting paid back when the home was sold. That was also thrown into the funding pot. And thirdly, the renovation of that home was paid for by Community Services Consortium. Before the home sold, the parcel was divided into 2, and the remaining undeveloped lot is now ready for the Land Trust's first new home construction project. The Land Trust recently went through its first request for proposals process and is ready to award a contract to a local contractor for the project not to exceed amount of $135,000. The Land Trust Development Committee has reviewed the proposal, checked the references, and determined the contractor to have met all the requirements of the RFP. The proposed home is 1,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1 story. All appliances are included, attached garage, and a front porch. So this is the request you have before you. To provide a loan to the Land Trust for construction of a single-family home on property which is already owned outright. And so and this is referring to the memo from Ron Tierney, our financial planner, that the economic development grant for site development is $5,700 plus a deferral of system development charges, which would be payable at the closing of home sale, approximately $13,300. And then we're asking tonight from you to consider approving a loan in the amount of $116,000, which would total the $135,000 total cost for construction. Do you have any questions?
Questions of councilors?
The land is owned outright, you said, Allison,
Yes.
by the city
It is owned by the Land Trust.
and trust. Thank you.
You may recall that the recommended affordable housing program included a $150,000 set aside for this type of revolving loans, one at a time, type loans. We would extend that loan until the house sells.
The other question I had, Mr. Rucker, was on the deferral of system development charges. That's not a normal process, but I'm remembering we had to do declare a need.
Right.
We did it with the Early Learning Center.
Right. The ordinance was changed to permit that deferral, and it may require a resolution.
It does. It requires a resolution of need to be adopted by the city council. We can come back with that
So
resolution.
if you generally approve this, we'll come back at the next meeting with a resolution on that deferral.
Great. Okay. Other questions from councilors?
Just a comment. This is very encouraging, the fact that we've got other cities involved and the county involved as well. Good work, Allison.
I'll relay that to the board. Thanks.
With that, then, I'd take a motion to approve this, what it'd be the recommendation for the, at this time, just the loan of $116,000.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion to approve with a second, and it's, a voice vote, please.
Norikis?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Quant?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Eggleton? And Ellingson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item we have is a discussion item, Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA, reimbursement update.
So I do have a PowerPoint. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and I was going to start announcing my title and names for our new audience members out there. I'm Lila Bradley, Public Works Director. I think I've shown you parts of this PowerPoint before, but this is an update on the Oregon Emergency Management Agreement that City Council approved on May 14th. This is from the January 17th storm this year. And so it's taken us this long to do the paperwork and get everything in place with FEMA. And they did approve our projects that we had on our list. One was the 24-inch water main. And there's, so this is our water plant out on Schooner Creek, and this is Schooner Creek running along here. This is a section of pipe, 24-inch pipe, and a 12-inch pipe that run, that were under the creek, and they're now exposed. And so that was one of our only water sources until we put the line in Drift Creek and have our backup source. That's just another picture that you can see a little bit better without the.
There's two lines that go through the creek,
Yes,
Lila?
yes. There's a 12-inch and a 12-inch and a 24-inch diameter pipe.
And are both of those contained in a concrete vault?
They are, and so this is actually was that vault along here. And this is all concrete. This isn't actually rock. So it's still encased in concrete, but it's exposed. It used to be under the creek. And I have a good picture of the as-built of that. And so this shows the bank here and where the pipe was brought down and under the creek. And now this pipe is exposed, where the water used to come at this level. And so the stream bed has been eroding.
Yes, yes. Isn't there a cap on that vault, Lila? That vault is not open, is it?
No, it's encased in concrete, and you can see that right here. So this is the concrete that's around. It's actually, I don't know if you call it a vault or not. It's concrete. The pipe is concreted in.
So the concrete's exposed, not the pipe, is it?
Correct. It's the concrete that's exposed.
Okay.
And so it would take something fairly large to actually damage it, a large tree or large boulder coming down the creek.
And just upstream on the creek, we have the new weir, do we not?
Yes, we have our intake for the water treatment plant.
So there's not much creek there to sustain a log coming down to destroy that vault, is there?
There's always the possibility.
Okay.
So I can, as I continue on, I'll show you what our plan is.
And presumably the bed of the creek is continually getting lower and lower and lower?
Yes. Yeah, that pipe is becoming more exposed, and we have spots over in this location and some debris that's gotten caught in that area. I mean, it could probably stay there for quite a few years, but we do have a plan.
So the debris gets hung up on that vault, that concrete
Right.
vault?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, and this is what was built. I can't remember what year this was, but. And so this is our engineer's estimate. We have that at $92,275. Actually, I had a little adjustment to that in your memo. It's $93,327.99 is our estimate. And that's doing a majority of the engineering in-house and also quite a bit of labor from our water distribution crew. And so what we would plan to do is bore the line under the creek. And I didn't have a picture of that, but it would be actually underneath where the pipe exists now. So it would be probably about 20 feet under this section. And that would be just the 24-inch pipe. The 12-inch pipe we will reconnect on the other side of the creek. So we won't need to run two pipes through there, just the one 24. And then I added some pictures of the boring job that we had on Port Avenue, just to show you an example of that equipment. And this was a smaller pipe. This was a 12-inch water pipe, but it was the HDPE, the real hard pipe that you can bore with. And so that's the pipe. And this is where it's entering and going under that wetland section. So that was all I had for the 24-inch line.
Pardon me. Could you tell me again, are we eliminating the 12-inch line, did you say?
Yes, we are just going to connect the 12-inch line in on the other side of the creek.
Connected to what?
To the 24.
To the 24, okay.
Right.
The old 12-inch steel main that we've been talking about replacing with a 4-inch, so we'll connect it in, but at some point, it's just going to get to be a 4-inch. There's no purpose in it crossing. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Yes, this is the 12-inch line that comes across, and then it connects here, and so we'll be able to eliminate that line.
It goes up Schooner Creek.
Right.
Instead of down.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask you a quick question. When you let out or estimate the cost for doing boring like that, I was up there and watched a lot. It was really fun on the Ford job.
Mm-hmm.
But the fellow was upset at himself because evidently the geographical information about the ground, he overlooked a few things, and so when it became an impediment to the speed with which he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And my take on it, not that it, was that, if he had known everything that he knew then, he wouldn't have done it for the price he was doing it. Hence, my question is, can you lock in, the price in case somebody runs into something they're not?
We do in our contract. We have certain criteria that say, if it depends on what you run into, and we do some borings and tests, and so we do add that into our criteria. It can always be more.
Yeah, all we have at this point is an estimate. We don't have boring holes, et cetera, and so that number could change.
Yeah, because it would seem to be on a creek bottom that it would be rock.
Well, again, we wanted to make the claim with FEMA and didn't have the time to do all the engineering in order to get the claim made, and we've made the best estimate that we could at this point. So with FEMA stepping up to the plate for 75%, we'll go ahead and hopefully, if you agree to this, and get it designed and bid, and that's when we'll get pretty close to a lock-in price.
And I do have other cost estimates. We did the line on Drift Creek, and there was a section at the intersection of Anderson Creek and Drift Creek Road that we had to bore underneath. And that was the 16-inch line, and it was actually a larger section than this, and it came in at $66,000. And they didn't run into any problems at all on that one. But you don't know until you start doing all the borings, and when you go down that deep, there's always a chance of running into some rock. Okay, and the next one I was going to show you was Southeast 51st Street, and that project estimate is $40,000, and we would be reimbursed $30,000. And that's a pretty good set price. We have, so this is down in Taft, right across from the old Taft Elementary School, and the city owns this piece of property. And the tide over time has come in and started eroding away at the road here. And I think I've shown you a couple of fixes on this before, but this one is similar to one that we did at Maryland Drive Pump Station near the lake, because the lake shore was damaging the bank and eroding it. And so we were going to use that same design, which went through FEMA's environmental group. And so there you can see where this riprap would go in the red section there. And this is just a as-built of what that would look like. They actually call it a burrito type wrapping, and so they add vegetation to it, and so it's as natural as you can get. Erosion control. So that was our estimate on that, was the $39,798, and that we would inspect that and design that in-house and bring the bid back to council, depending on how high it is, but we're definitely estimating that $40,000 for that one. And then on to my next one. This is Southeast 35th. This project is almost completed. We have some paving to do there yet, but it was a storm manhole right here in the next to Bob Book's, his parking lot's right here. And this is a Christmas Cottage and the Nelscott Pump Station. And so this is our sewer overflow line if we have any problems with this station. And so this is a really deep storm manhole. It's about 20 feet deep. And it eroded in that storm. And so this is a picture of them excavating that out. And, excuse me. So this is almost ground level. You can see the amount of excavation that they had to do. And so we contracted this out, received bids, and we purchased the materials and just paid for the excavation and rock replacement, which was, and placement of installation of this. And that was about $22,000.
And does that go 20 feet down?
Yes.
And that pipe, that busted pipe, just feeds right into it? That's like a sump drain, in effect?
Yes, that particular drain wasn't the drain from the pump station. That was another one from up on the hill, because it is a storm manhole, and so there's drainage from the highway.
Right.
So you can see so there's a drain that comes this way and comes over to it, and then it comes back out, and it's the outfall at Baldy Creek and out to the ocean at 35th Street.
So it's just a gravity feed?
It's just a gravity
drain field.
Drain. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And it's very deep under the highway, and we checked our pipes going underneath the highway as well. And so we used the TV equipment and looked at those and made sure that they were okay, and worked on the outfall on the other side. So it was a good project, and we're almost done with that. And I've actually billed that project out, and so we'll receive $25,596 of that. And I think that was it. And so,
You had also
yes, we had a minor debris cleanup, and that was some generator runtime at the Nell Scott pump station, and those were the main things that we had happening at that storm. So we were hit much less hard than the other parts of the county on that one.
Lila, does this checks are in the mail from the feds, or do you have to apply for the action now that they've awarded?
Okay, I have applied for the ones that we've already spent, which is the 35th Street, and so they'll be sending us a check for that amount. And I billed that out last week when I received the paperwork, and then the debris cleanup as well. And so the other two projects I will have to design, bid, bring back to you for award.
Okay.
And then we would be reimbursed for those.
And that's when you apply, or
Apply, yes.
or actually, so we know we've been awarded these, we just have to get the projects completed.
Right.
Great.
So we just have to get them out there, and so we'll do that as soon as possible.
Well, as unfortunate as storms create problems, in this case, we've been fortunate to have the federal dollars assist in some of the upgrading.
Yes,
Yes, so-
yes. Yeah, similar to the Schooner Creek, road slide.
Yeah.
And it takes quite a while to get these projects completed, but it's worthwhile in the long run.
I wanted to mention that Lila Bradley is very, very good at working with FEMA and pays a lot of attention to the damages that we get when we have an emergency declaration. And it's a time-consuming process, and they come out and review all these and do site visits and staff visits and so on. It's a fairly lengthy process, and we've been, because of Lila, very good at getting these 75% reimbursements that really help us out.
And I'd like to thank Luke Gamazzo as well, our staff. He put all the engineers' estimates together for me and met with me with FEMA, and so he's very, very helpful in making this happen.
That's great. Any questions, Lila, from council? Okay.
Okay.
How about next topic? Is that yours? The
It's
amendment of memorandum of understanding?
It's probably all of ours.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lila.
Okay. All right. Well, on December 6th, the City Council made an agreement with the State of Oregon and this is on our US 101 16th to 36th project, the Highway Improvement Project, which is now a 3-lane improvement. And thanks to the mayor and the city manager on that one, getting an agreement put together with them. And so I think you've read the amendment, and we had some agreement, we had some clarifying verbiage in there. Instead of if we would, it would be when we would have an intersection, signalized intersection at 32nd Street. And then the other clarification is that we agreed to abandon the southeast leg of 32nd, which means that entrance into the Nell Scott Strip, it would actually be a little bit past that intersection and have an entrance. So it would eliminate the combination of, the two stops at that intersection. And so it would be a standard driveway approach. But the plan that they brought to us not too long ago and met with property owners there looked like it was going to be pretty reasonable and work well. So it's our staff recommendation to approve those changes to the agreement.
And questions from council?
I have a question, Lila, on page 3, I believe it is, 6E, starts out with the word reinvestigate the possible placement of a traffic signal.
Is that on the,
That's the MOU.
okay. And that's the old one?
Yeah, there's the original MOU and then this amendment that we're...
Yes.
Okay.
amendment should say draft on it, so see if I have the right.
Doesn't say draft. It's number 28.
Yeah, I think that's the original. So you should have a second one. May not have copied it for.
The question, though, Councilor Enriquez?
The question was regarding investigate. I thought the issue was settled, that we are in fact having a there.
Yes, and that's what all of the plans are showing, that it's realigning that east side with the west side.
And there will be a light there.
Well, I think they've stopped short of absolutely guaranteeing that.
Okay.
Okay? They're headed in that direction.
So they are reinvestigating it.
I think that's a pretty strong term. The current opinion of the state traffic engineer is that will be permitted. It is not yet permitted.
Okay. That was
And
the question.
the state traffic engineer is the one who makes that decision.
All right.
Yeah, so we did go from if to when, so that's in the right direction.
We're getting closer.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sprague?
Question. When you mentioned that that'll become a driveway on 35th, is that a driveway for the art gallery and for Foon Hing Yuen?
Actually, yes, that will become a driveway.
Okay.
But this is, let me see. Yes, you're correct.
And there won't be any access to the new loop that goes around it, that takes the place of it?
They're still looking at that. So there might be at least maybe a turnaround, but that's not, that.
It doesn't appear like that will connect to the new alignment
I
road.
think that amendment speaks to that, if I remember reading that right.
Yeah. So you're correct on that one. So it would be a fairly wide driveway there, but it won't connect in that loop. You're
That's what I
correct.
thought.
Yep.
I think a couple of things. It shows MOUs are fluid documents with amendments and kind of moving it to firmer and firmer clarification for clarification. The other thing I've got kind of a chuckle out of, no need to get excited, but notice how it takes more people to sign an amendment than it did the original MOU. Go figure.
And it'll grow.
Yeah. Okay.
But, I think overall, this project appears to be still on the rails. Still, the wheels are still on the rails. And I've been holding my breath, but we've had several meetings since the original MOU, and we're dealing with details. They're large details, but the basic concept is not changed from the MOU. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to actually see this project.
I would agree with all the meetings I've had, plus the inquiries from everybody in the periphery that are up the rank higher than all that we meet with are very interested and supportive. So,
And they're looking at a public workshop after Labor Day so that everyone can attend.
see more. Yeah.
See more people there.
I have one more question, Your Honor.
Sure.
On the memorandum, the MOU, Lila, the draft copy, number 6, agency acknowledges the risk of increased congestion and traffic accidents as a result of a new signal?
What they're stuck on, and I guess they're probably right, is that any time you stop the flow of traffic, particularly the northbound traffic coming down that hill, you stop that traffic with a signal, there's going to be more rear-end collisions. And this is disclosure. They want us to be aware of that that's going to happen. And it's a trade-off for getting access to and from Nelscott. No signal comes without some price, and there will be some rear-end accidents that probably otherwise would not occur.
and some short backups of traffic.
Thank you.
Counsel?
A quick question. The amendment says it's going to insert new terms and conditions, paragraphs 4 through 6. I think we already have terms and conditions 1 through 7. So I don't think the intent was, if I'm correct, to remove anything from the existing MOU, but just to add to it. And maybe that's just a numbering.
I think it's probably a numbering.
So I know this has
This,
been signed, but
it actually has not been signed yet,
okay.
so we will be getting this is a draft from them, so we can.
It's just a clarification.
Well,
and
I think we're coming.
consistent.
I think we're coming to you for approval because while the mayor and I signed the original, it subsequently went to council for ratification. And so because the MOU went to council for ratification, any changes to it would need your approval.
So I think it says terms and conditions, the existing MOU terms and conditions, our numbers are 1 through 7. There is also a section that precedes that just says the parties agree to the following, and there are 7 of those as well. So I guess if you're adding to the agreement and that's what council is approving, then it's just a matter of inserting it and numbering it. If you're taking something out, I guess it's not clear that anything is supposed to be removed, and if it is, then council may need to come back with the next draft, unless we can somehow delegate that.
Well, let's ask council to approve it, assuming that these are all simply additions and not subtractions.
And
That's my recommendation.
yes.
Reading through 4, 5, and 6, it looks like it's an addition to me.
And if it's just a matter of correcting the numbering and getting this approved, then if for some reason we're incorrect on that, we'll come back to you with another draft.
Sound good? Good. All right. So do we need a motion to approve this amendment number 1?
Yes.
And then,
On that basis, that these are additions.
So moved.
is there a second? So we have a motion with a second to approve amendment number 1 for memorandum of understanding with the City of Lincoln City and Department of Transportation. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed with a nay? Hearing none? Thank you. All right, city manager report.
Deb, I think you're going to handle this item.
Good evening. I am here to ask for your preferences as to when you would like to hear about the progress and the development of the draft walking and biking plan. The process that started last fall is now nearing completion, and we expect to get a draft from our consultants by the end of August. We'd like to hold hearings before the Planning Commission and the City Council later than in the fall. We would like to have a time to talk with the Council and the Planning Commission about the plan before we actually get to the hearing to make sure that we're addressing any concerns prior to that time. So we have talked to the consultants about Monday the 24th, which is a council meeting day. We don't know that Urban Renewal will, whether they'll be having a meeting beforehand, but we were thinking that if they were not, one option would be, rather than to have the presentation during the council meeting, to have it in a workshop prior to the council meeting. So just here to ask your preferences about that, and also if you do a workshop, whether you would like to include the Planning Commission in the same workshop or whether you think it would be beneficial to have separate ones.
And this is, the request would be for September 24th, which is a Monday council meeting day. Personally, I'd like to see a workshop myself, and to include the council, or the planning commission with council, just to deal with it once and benefit from everyone's questions all at once.
I would agree.
Has there been any discussion with Planning Commission as to their availability? I'm just trying to think of, earlier in the afternoon.
I'm starting with you, and I don't know.
That's a good place to start. Thank you.
Right. So they'll have a meeting next week, and we'll ask them.
Okay. I would just appreciate getting plenty of time rather than squeezing, a council meeting. So if we think it's going to be an hour, would love an hour and a half anyway. And
all right.
But I'm sensitive to those who aren't able to break in earlier in the afternoon that are employed in such a way.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Help me out. We would be having a workshop so that the consultant could continue to learn or gather final information as to what the concerns or the suggestions might be. I mean, so during the workshop, it wouldn't just be a presentation of what occurred at the bike and walkway meetings. It would be sharing the information and then talking about it.
Right.
To see
Right. We have completed the planning, the project advisory committee meetings now, and so they will be taking all the input from those meetings to prepare a draft, and that's what will be ready and available to you prior to the workshop. So we'll be discussing the draft, and I did include 4 topics on the second page of my memo that the consultants would like to cover in that workshop. Just to make sure, for instance, that we've made a typology of the streets in town, and we've assigned all the streets to either high use, medium use, or local use, local streets or the highway. We have talked about funding strategy, and we're talking about whether or not we want to add an extra fee or a local tax, in addition to trying, of course, to get state money or federal money to do some of these improvements. We have design guidelines that we're proposing for treatments and sidewalk widths and that kind of thing. And we'll have some changes to the comprehensive plan policies. So all of these things, I think, are worth bringing to you in advance of actually holding a public hearing. That way, the consultants can make changes if necessary.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I get it better now.
Okay.
I just, as far as the report, as long as it has an open end or an end to it open enough to modify as it, as we finally hear, the last of the information from the public.
Oh, you mean at the hearings?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I would assume that would be true. That's why we're holding the hearings, of course.
Like a foregone conclusion. But I get it better now.
And the reason I like the workshops, it seems to be less formal and an opportunity to raise the kind of questions, challenge the consultants as to maybe something they put in the report. It just seems like a better forum to do something like that. But your point is excellent, that what they're doing is gathering one more from us, I guess, us being the Council and Planning Commission, prior to going to another public hearing as well. It's all looking for feedback.
Feedback, that's the word I was looking.
Yes, Councilor.
It's a question. How long do you expect that this workshop would take? Hour and a half, 2 hours? What?
Well, we allocated 15 minutes to each of those 4 topics I just reviewed, but we could certainly have it give it a little extra time in case we run over and get involved in a discussion.
I'm just thinking about if that's going to be on the day of a council meeting, then Do we have executive session? Do we have urban renewal also, and how all that plays into it? So I think we need to maybe think about a day that we don't have the possibility of those things, so that we don't have to change the workshop time or something. People can plan far enough ahead.
If you'd like to give me some dates, I'll check them with the consultants to make sure they can be here.
It is staying, I guess staying with that day earlier in the day, is that an issue?
Not an issue for me, but it may be for others. I'm just wondering if maybe we shouldn't consider doing it on the day that Planning Commission meets and have it before they meet.
And what would be September, that be?
Okay,
They meet
the first and the third meetings for the Planning Commission, so it would be the 3rd and the 17th. And if we get too early, we probably won't be ready with the draft. So we may end up in October then.
Aren't they Tuesdays? Are they Tuesdays?
Yes, they are Tuesday. Did I say the wrong day?
So it'd be September the 7th.
4th and the 18th then.
4th and 18th.
Yes. So that would still be before. And I'm not sure, we wanted to give them a little extra time. They said they'd have the draft by the end of August, but we just wanted to make sure that they were really ready. Also, what we're trying to do with our scheduling is to avoid the holidays at the end of November and in December, so we're trying to make sure our public hearings are a good time for the public.
October 2nd.
I will check on that and see if we can arrange that with the consultants.
In the afternoon, 4:30, something like that, is what, before a Planning Commission meeting?
All right?
Does anybody have a problem with so those are, I would say dates, the 18th, September 18th, and October 2nd, both be
Either one of those would work?
options.
Either one are fine.
Yeah. Is council
Great.
all right with that? Okay, is that
We'll
enough
check that.
options for you? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good idea, Roger. We might be busy.
Mr. Hawker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one other item, a little bit of an update on our unaccounted-for water, which we have believed for some time is mostly due to water that's leaking out of the system. There's a lot of indicators that tell us that. We have started to, three different things here on that subject. We routinely test meters, primarily the large meters, but we do spot checks on the smaller meters that were all installed within a couple of years in the 90s. And we've started to see some failures in the high-volume, the high-use meters, particularly those on dead-end lines. So the cure for that is not a new meter, but they replace the innards, if you will, the chamber and the moving parts. So we've ordered 300 of those, and we'll begin tracking that more carefully. That's not only lost, that's not lost water, that's lost revenue. And we do keep a pretty good eye on that. That's probably the minor part of our problem. Recently, we saw our 30% jump up almost to 40%. And routinely, we check our production meter. And that's done by pumping out of the clear well, which is a big hole, concrete hole under the plant of certain well-defined dimensions, exact dimensions. And so they pump out of that a certain amount of gallons and measure the drawdown and can test the meter. And we do that regularly. And we found out that our production meter was running slow by about 7%. And so the meter's been replaced. We have a month or two of data that is not real accurate because of that failure. We're back on track with that. And that probably in itself brought the loss back down to about 30%. The good news is the new equipment that council authorized, they found two major leaks, and and so far, I believe, have fixed one of those two. And it was a leak that was doing us double damage because it was going into a sewer main, 200 or 300 gallons a minute, leaking out of a pipe, going right into the sewer, right into the lift station and into the sewer plant. So we not only were losing water, but we had to treat it at the sewer plant. It was a double whammy. So that one's been repaired, and they found another one with the new equipment, where the old equipment just couldn't find these, or maybe it could have in enough time, but it's so labor-intensive. The new equipment found that, and we're going to notice a pretty sizable dent, I believe, in our water loss. I've noticed in the last week or two the production numbers have gone down. There's a lot of reasons that can happen. So it's a little early to tell you where our percentages are going to be. I won't know that for another month or two. But the indications are that these two major leaks may make a significant positive difference. I'll report back to you when we know. And in the past, what's happened is every time we find a big leak, it comes down a little bit, and then it dives right back up again. I'm hoping that is not the case this time, and so far, in the last week or two, the production from the plant has been down, even though it appears to me that our traffic level in town has not gone down. In fact, has been quite healthy the last couple of weeks. So I'll report back to you, but so far, we're keeping a very close eye on all this. I want you to know that, and I'll get you some hard numbers as soon as we think they're reliable.
That's great.
That's
Questions?
Yeah, questions on that.
Mr. Hawker, with those defective meters, you say that's not lost water, but it is unaccounted for water, isn't it?
It's unaccounted for and it's unbilled.
Right.
Now, in the winter season, it's really not unbilled because, for the most part, this is covered in the base 400 cubic feet. But come summer, when people start using more water, either because of occupancy or because of irrigation, when they go over the 400 cubic feet, then it would be lost. And we define a bad meter. They run three tests on a meter, a low flow, medium flow, and high flow. And if any one of those is off by 5%, and they only run slow, they never run fast on small meters, then we decide that meter needs to be replaced or repaired. And so if they run the low flow test and it turns out it's 7% off, they stop the test at that point, repair the meter. So we don't go through all of the testing. If any one of those tests, the first test that fails, the meter has failed. So it's not, we don't know exactly how much we might be losing on that particular meter. I mean, we have 6,500 meters. So I'm not going to have them spend a lot of time doing three tests when the first one says it's failed or the second one says it failed. Replace the guts of the meter, move on to the next one.
And how do we determine if it's low?
They have a test meter.
Okay.
They actually have a calibrated test meter that's very accurate.
Thank you.
Other questions on the water?
I think we're on the right track, and I'm really pleased that at the mayor's suggestion and council's approval, we did budget for the high-tech equipment that tells us not only that we have a leak, but where that leak is. And it used to be that you just go along the line and try to detect more or less where the leak was. Here you clamp on essentially two different points, and the speed at which sound travels tells us now where that leak is and the number of feet from one station to the next. They dig down and there's the leak.
Well, it's been fun getting the reports, myself, the enthusiasm of when a leak is found. And there never has been a question of the integrity and work ethic of the our public employee-based workforce, that they were doing their darndest.
Oh, yeah.
The attempt of the council was just get them the equipment to...
Yeah, they've got it, and my suspicion is they're going to find more leaks than they have time to fix, but we'll find a way to get it fixed.
Any other questions on water? Water, Mr. Rocker, just and it's off the subject now of water, but you brought it up because I would agree, the appearances of this last week or so has been heavy traffic. I mean, the city has traffic counters.
No.
Do we not? Okay.
We have access to the ODOT counters.
Okay.
There's 2 counters, permanent counters. We've been trying our best to get them to install a 3rd counter at the south end. So far unsuccessful. If we want that counter, we may have to pay for. It's not just the installation cost; it's the cost of maintaining, reading it, et cetera. Yeah, we have access to 2 counters.
Okay.
Plus, we have access to the one in Grand Ronde that would tell us something too. And I haven't looked at those numbers. It takes a while to cook those numbers in a way that they're understandable.
Yeah.
And we will do that.
Is that something we should, in our many discussions with ODOT, as we're developing relationships, is that something that should be on our agenda?
I think so, but I'm also sensitive to the fact that well, at least they claim that their people that are doing this traffic counting are overloaded and can't handle any more stations. And because we've opened the door to say, look, we'll pay what we might consider paying for the installation. The counting loops are the same loops that trigger the signal. And so all they have to do is add a card and a device to communicate, which I assume is essentially a cell phone, to communicate with their home office. And I don't think that's their worry. Their worry is the cost it takes their people to put that information that comes electronically to them in usable format. So, yeah, it'd be worth raising it. I wouldn't be overly optimistic that they'll jump on board. And in the meantime, I'm going to see what we could do about having that information sent to us.
Good. Yeah, it'd be a nice piece to...
Be a great piece, because then we'll know at any one time, we know how many people are coming in from the north and leaving to the north. If we had the same information at the south, we'd know how many people are in town at any one time, or at least how many vehicles.
Right. Yeah. Good, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Joan, did you have anything you need under this?
I just have a comment on since this might be my only chance, on your ordinances for approval this evening.
Okay.
I'm struggling with a different version of Word on my new computer than what the city currently uses. And so I had deleted references to the prior ordinance throughout the substantive portion of the text. Somehow that didn't come through. So I guess I'd like to ask, if you adopt the ordinance, to delegate to the city recorder to make any scrivener's changes, including deleting those references in Section 3.
Would that include corrections and typos?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it would include typos.
Typos. Corrections, I guess grammatical corrections. I'm not sure it would include other... If there's a correction you think should be made, I guess I should know that, or the council should know that.
I'm not...
I don't mean to jump ahead on the agenda. I'm
Okay,
just trying to-
all right.
We can take up that, but let's first, hearing nothing else under that agenda item, the resolutions for approval, resolution number 2012-18, a resolution adopting the supplemental budget of the City of Lincoln City for the fiscal year 2012-2013 as approved by City Council and making appropriations.
Mayor, should I explain this briefly?
If you would.
Okay. This makes 2 changes to the budget. The first one is in street operations, where we'll get $30,000 in revenue from FEMA. Lila's covered this previously. Our expenses will be $40,000, and we'll take $10,000 out of contingency and $30,000 additional revenue. The second change is, and that was for the Southeast 51st Street shoulder. The second one is for Schooner Creek boring. We will get $69,750 in revenue. Our cost will be $93,000. We'll take $23,250 out of contingency.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I move that we approve resolution number 2012-18, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for the City of Lincoln City for the fiscal year 2012-2013.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2012-18. Voice vote, okay?
Joan, that can just be a voice vote, correct?
Voice vote on supplemental budget, yes.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay? Hearing none? Thank you. All right, this is the ordinance for approval, ordinance number 2012-04, an ordinance of the City of Lincoln City repealing ordinance number 2008-22, adopting new provisions relating to criminal trespass and conduct in public places, and amending Chapter 12.18 of the Lincoln City Municipal Code. And this is, we had, it was last meeting, had a draft and discussion item regarding that, and then what you had in your packet was the proposed ordinance. Any further questions or as you were perusing this time from Mr. Norikis?
Yeah, I've got typos and/or corrections on.
I'm actually noticing that, I'm sorry, Mr. Gates's programs have messed up. The index is not correct under all the...
You want to come back with this?
I think I should come back and not put you through the pain and agony and be happy to talk with you about those changes.
All
I
right.
apologize for that.
So we'll just see this next
If
meeting.
you just postpone it, we'll put on the first reading for the next meeting.
But the basic content, as far as the public is concerned, that might want to comment.
What this ordinance does is primarily two things. It clarifies the authority of the city manager that's given to the city manager under the charter to be responsible for public buildings, and clarifies that authority to adopt rules of conduct for public buildings, and sets up a process if, for some reason, there's an egregious breaking of some rule that interferes with substantially with city business. The city would have the authority to exclude that person for a limited period of time. And then the ordinance also clarifies that there's an appeal process for that exclusion determination. That appeal is in municipal court, and that a limited waiver can also be approved under very specific circumstances, and that process would occur with the city manager. So it's an existing process, but it's this, the exclusion authority of the police already exists. For parks primarily was what that was focused on. This focuses more on adding public buildings, since that has been the source of some of the conflicts that have come up in the last couple of years.
As I was reading this over the weekend, the piece that came up is right-of-way a public, and I'm wondering about panhandling and obnoxious activities in right-of-way. Is this a tool that might be able to assist in redirecting that activity?
It depends. This ordinance is not directed per se at panhandling in a right-of-way. I believe that conduct can sometimes fall under aspects of the criminal code, depending on what the conduct is. But that's an area that's a little tricky, and the city has to walk a fine line between protecting the public from unwanted interference, or basically with traffic, if there's a danger to traffic, and legitimate use of the sidewalk and the right of people to enjoy that portion of the right-of-way.
I guess the question, though, is this another tool that assists in that controlling of that behavior?
I'm going to hedge a little bit and say maybe in some circumstances. I can't say that it would in all circumstances.
All right. Any other questions? So we'll just see it again next meeting. All right? With that, gosh, we're back to comments. It seems so early, but we could make a run at comments from the public at large. Mr. Rocker, we may have to consider phone-in now that we're streaming live and take your call.
Or maybe email, if a couple of questions came up here, and we could read them off to see what's...
Twitter.
Oh, boy.
Seeing no comments, then, please come up. You have to come up to the mic, because we can't hear you, or the public.
No.
No, really can't. Oh, yeah, come on up. We've got the time. Oh, we're pretty informal here. You're all right. We do need your name and address, though, so we'll get who to blame.
My name is Pat Callan, and I live on 14th Street. And the whole address?
Yeah.
1550 South East 14th Street.
Okay.
My question was about the water and the meters and reading and the number that meters that you have to deal with. Is there a set schedule on when these meters are going to be read, or are you just waiting until someone calls and says, I think I'm using too much water?
No, we read the meters every month.
Yeah, but I meant when you go to replace them.
Okay.
Checking them for damage.
That's a good question. What we're doing right now, the first thing we did was do some random tests, and then, which we just do periodically. When our crew has some time, they go out and do random tests. More recently, we found that those random tests, the meters that were failing were the meters that had a lot of water that have gone through them, have very high readings on them. So now we're concentrating on those. I'm not sure that answers your question. There's no regular schedule that every meter is going to be tested. From a customer point of view, it doesn't hurt because these meters never run fast. They only run slow. Now, real large meters can run either way, but single-family meters can only run slow. They can't run fast. I've often said that I'll eat any meter that anybody brings me that runs fast, and so far I haven't had to eat a brass meter. So there's no regular schedule. What we're going to do is concentrate on the high-volume meters, and particularly those in dead-end lines. And the reason for that is that they're failing at a little higher rate than the other ones, and the reason for that is because the dead-end lines accumulate some sediment, and obviously we're going to have to flush the dead-end lines a little more often than we used to. That's the other part of this. Did I answer your question or not?
Sort of.
You want to try again?
Well, my next question would be, in time, would you be putting in a schedule where, because the meters do fail.
Uh-huh.
You know, I've been a homeowner many times in many places, and I've run into it twice where my meter has failed. And
oh, well, the other thing that we do is our computer, we input the meter readings into the computer billing program, is it looks for changes in consumption. And if it shows, for example, a large decrease in consumption or an unusual decrease in consumption, then it's put on the schedule for testing. Okay, so from that point of view, yes. And if a meter stops, we go out and check it. It could be that people left town, but it also could be that the meter is stuck. So, yeah, the computer also flags these for testing. I missed that.
And are you afraid that your meter might be running too slow and you're cheating the city out of water revenue?
It's just a generalistic question.
No, it was very good.
It was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah. Counselor?
Yeah, David, if customer had a concern about their meter, could they ask the water department to come and check it?
Sure.
Do you do that?
Sure.
So if
But
someone...
again,
But get it
they're
slow.
not going to get good news. They may get neutral news,
Oh, I know.
but they're not going to get good
I'm
news.
just trying to cover all the bases, you know.
Appreciate it. Thank you. See, thank you for, it's very educational for all of us, so appreciate it. Given that, comments, Councilor Sprague?
I think we can be happy with the weather that we have here. The Midwest was roasting. We were just back in the Midwest, and we had a couple of days of over 100. It was probably never less than 94 any one day we were back there, and so getting back here to this nice weather is really appreciated. We can be thankful for what we've got here.
And we are. Councilor Eggleton, what's up? Pull your mic into you so the people can hear you.
The fellows from the water department did a leak check on the road down Harbor in front of the area where I'm at, and they were telling me the same thing that David, the manager, said. They're telling me how they found a big leak in Nelscott, and that should almost pay for the price of the equipment that they got. It was that big.
Huh.
Then the other thing I was going to say is I got a couple emails from people that live back in the Midwest, and the Kite Festival was on national news.
Right, yes, NBC. Yeah, good coverage there. Real bright, sunny, windy, lots of kites. It was a good day. Right? It's nice to know that people would actually contact you and acknowledge that they saw it. That was good.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Henry? Nothing tonight, huh? Councilor Ward?
I'm good.
Okay. Gary, sir, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Because it is so early, I will take one moment. Due to Roger mentioning high temperatures, my daughter's right across the Potomac from D.C., and on top of over 100-degree temperatures, their power went out in a large geographic region. And if you've ever been back there in warm temperature, it's not a place that you want to be without air conditioning. And it is a very serious matter for a lot of people, and it had unfortunate consequences for a few. So I'm not trying to make light of it, but we are lucky to live in the environment we live in.
And, Councilor, now that we're streaming live, I'm sure there are people in D.C. that are watching us at this moment. This is a good time to invite them to move west. We have room, so.
And I hope I didn't say anything. I mean, I like the D.C. area is really fun to visit, and it's a great place to work if you're young. Lastly, I would like to thank the city for the effort they made with the fireworks in Taft. I went down there for the presentation, and it was, I think, I'll speak for myself. I had absolutely nothing to do with it, but I was really proud of the city, of the way the police department was fielding questions and conducting business, and the firework presentation I thought was, for a town of our size, spectacular. I really appreciate it. So, thank you.
Councilor Norikis.
No, thank you.
Gosh. Gary, I would agree with you. I've heard from numerous people about the display. The presentation was just extraordinary. I thought it was, a stellar year of display. So I think that's worked very well. And certainly based on the traffic coming north out of there, looked like a lot of people there. I do have a couple of things. I'd like to remind people that tomorrow night, Tuesday, July 10th at 6 p.m. at the Eventuary, there is an organizational meeting for those who are interested in a dog park in Lincoln City. So council may remember that we were handed a petition signed by 696 folks encouraging us to look at a dog park. we pushed it back to the citizens saying, get organized. They're getting organized tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the eventuary. Then followed up Sunday, the 15th, at the Farmers Market, is the Bike Ped Open Forum, 9 to 3. It's an open house. You can look at the plans. The public can. There'll be displays. It'll be a gorgeous day. So just come take a look, ask questions. Followed by Friday, July 20th, is the Roadhouse 101 Pathfinders event commemorating 100 years of roadway from Newport to Sluts Bay. And then reminding council, we have a meeting July 18th with the county commissioners here, at least per my book, at 6 p.m. That's a Wednesday night, joint meeting with the county commissioners. And there's a reminder, new county commissioner. It'd be a good time to meet him. And that's it that I have. Anything else before we adjourn? Consider it adjourned. Thank you.